Hello children, welcome back to the class. Have you ever thought how transportation takes place in plants? Let us see today, and we have an interesting segment in the video, so wait and watch. So today we'll start with how transportation takes place in plants. So what happens when you pour water to the plant? To the roots, you can find the roots, it takes up the water. So how do they take in? Because the roots are in close contact with the surface and it has tiny holes called the root hairs. With the help of root hairs, they take up water, right? So, when the nutrients are nearby, when the nutrients are on in contact with the roots, it can take up directly through diffusion. What will happen to leaf? How do they take nutrients? Can we pour water onto the leaf directly to absorb? So what is necessary? The root has to uptake water and it has to send it to stem. From stem it has to reach the leaf. So it requires a system. So you call that as a transportation system. And plants have specialized structures called the conductive tissues. So today we will discuss about conductive tissues. Plants have a specialized system called the conductive tissues or the vascular bundles for transportation. Because when you pour water to the plants, so just imagine you pour water to the plants. So what will happen when you pour water to the plants? The plant can easily take up the water via diffusion. So this is easy because the nutrient is in contact with the surface, so the root can easily take up. But what should happen? It has to move via all these in order to reach a leaf. So diffusion is not possible in this case. So it requires a specialized tissue called the conductive tissues. So conductive tissues includes xylem and phloem. So first we'll discuss about xylem. So plant conducts water as well as food. So xylem conducts water and minerals, whereas phloem conducts, so this conducts water and minerals, whereas phloem conducts food. So we have various cells that plays an important role in transportation of plants. Let us see one by one. Conductive tissues are xylem and phloem. So xylem conducts water, whereas phloem conducts food. So first we'll go with xylem. So not only xylem, we also have the associated tissues along with xylem to conduct water. They are xylem fibers, xylem parenchyma, xylem tracheids, and xylem vessels. So these are certain associated tissues that help in conducting water. So I told you when you pour water to plant, the roots will take up the water and send it to stem. From stem it reaches the leaf. And the process through diffusion is very easy. Why? Because the root is directly in contact with the environment. So this movement of water and minerals will occur in one direction. That is why you call this as unidirection. And the walls of the xylem, it is highly thick and made up of lignin. So it gives rigidity. The structure is hard. Plant structure is highly hard. It is because of the lignin, presence of lignin. Okay. And the movement takes place in one direction. You call that as ascent of sap. So you call that as ascent of sap. So this is done by the presence of xylem as well as the tissues of xylem. Now coming to phloem. Phloem, it conducts food. Similarly, the phloem will also have certain associated tissues like phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers, seed tubes, and one more is companion cells. So these are certain tissues of phloem that helps in conduction of food. But here the process is little tough. Why? Because the phloem is not directly exposed. The leaves are not exposed directly to the environment. Why? Because from the stem the water moves to the leaf, where what process takes place in leaf? The food preparation takes place in leaf, and the food has to be transported to all the parts. Since when the food preparation is done inside the leaf, the pressure of the food, the pressure of the leaf will be high. The pressure, the osmotic pressure of the leaf will be high. That osmotic pressure has to be lowered down. So if it is lowered down, what should happen? There should be some movement from here. Say, for example, a bucket full of water will exert more and more pressure. So that has to be, if that has to be released out, what should be done? Either via pipes or tubes, the water has to be released out. So similarly, only then the osmotic pressure can be lowered. Similarly, the osmotic pressure in the leaf will be higher, so that has to be reduced down in order to maintain the correct homeostasis of the plant. If so, what should happen? The food from the leaf has to be transported to all the parts. So that movement of food from leaf to all the parts, you call that as translocation. You call that as translocation. Trans meaning change, location. So that is why you call the movement as multi-direction or bi-direction. Why? Because the food preparation will take place in leaf and it is not stored in one place. It has to move to all the parts. So you call that as translocation and the movement as bi-directional. And you can see certain perforations here, some holes. So that is why that allows the movement of molecule to move through all these substances. Only then the osmotic pressure can be released out. A very simple example I can tell you. Uh, Plants will store food, right? It stores in the form of carbohydrate. So if it is stored whenever the plant is in need, say for example a plant has to bloom, so what will happen? That stored energy has to be translocated to the bud in order to bloom. So when it is stored, the osmotic pressure will be high, and from storage, when it is moved to the bud, the osmotic pressure goes down. So this is how translocation takes place. This is all done by the conductive tissue xylem and phloem. And you should also think, just imagine we are pouring water to the leaves and it is moving up and reaching the upper parts of the plant. How is this happening? What is the movement? How this is happening? Any guess? So some suction pull. So something is pulling upward. You call that as suction pull or transpirational pull. You call that as suction or transpirational pull. So because of suction or transpirational pull, the conduction or the transportation takes place in plants. I told you there is an interesting segment waiting for you. So let us see now so you will understand what.
Can you see the smoky appearance? The droplets formed. See? Hey, தெரியுது பாரு. Can you see this droplets formed? So what is this? What are these droplets indicate? The removal of excess water from plants. So what is the process called? Transpiration.
So what is your learning from the experiment, children? You could have seen certain water droplets or the smoggy thing, which shows the excess water has released out from the plant. It is all because of the transpirational pull. So some suction is given from the upper, maybe the environmental factor, which is making the molecule to transport from the lower to all the parts of the plant. So this transpirational pull helps in transpiration. So what is the transpiration? Excess water from the plants are released out. So this is very important to maintain the temperature of the plant. Okay. Any doubts, children?